United States, but across the world, the Viterbi School of Engineering was really advocating for data science programs that intersect with the other schools at USC, like public policy, healthcare, and education, and business. So one of the things that we looked at was working and partnering with the other schools at USC. And I can really say that the communication data science program has really been very successful. It's really been able to provide a Master of Science degree for students that are interested in the areas of communication and how it intersects with data science. So congratulations to all of you. I'm not going to speak too much more because I know that many of my colleagues have some really meaningful and important things to cover today. So I'm going to turn it over, and please I am available for questions at any time. So I'll turn it over to Professor Neff now.
Great, thank you so much, Kimmy. Sorry, it looked like my connection might have been unstable there for just a minute. Can you all hear me okay? All right, great. I'm gonna pull up my slides. In the meantime, take a look at the beautiful campus behind me. This is the Doheny Library that you're looking at, one of our many beautiful buildings on the USC campus in sunny Southern California. In addition to having a fantastic graduate program, a range of fantastic graduate programs, we also have wonderful weather about 350 days out of the year. So just another selling point for USC. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get my slides moving here. Sometimes I can't see hands so well when you're raising hands with questions when I'm presenting. So I'll ask Bryant to pipe up if there's something that I'm missing as I'm going along here, but I'll go ahead and get started. All right, so welcome everyone. As Cami mentioned, my name is Dr. Jessica Neff. I am the co-director of the Communication Data Science program. Some of you may have encountered me in previous information sessions about this program. The co-director title is an important one because I have a counterpart, Dr. Yolanda Gill, who manages the curriculum on the Viterbi side. So this really is a joint program. It is a collaboration across the two schools, and we really work really closely together to make sure you have an integrated curriculum and a cohesive experience. All right, so I'd just like to echo what Cami said and say congratulations and welcome to what we call the Trojan family, assuming that you join us. It really is a family and a deep network of individuals at USC. It continues on beyond your graduation at USC. This is a really exciting and innovative program, and it's also a competitive one. So to echo what Kimmy said again, every year our applicants are stronger and stronger. This program launched back in 2016, and every year I'm just increasingly impressed by the quality of the students that we're attracting. So really a big congratulations and welcome to USC. This is a really innovative program. So there aren't many other universities doing what Viterbi is doing with these interdisciplinary programs. And to my knowledge, there's no other program that combines communication and data science in quite this way. And so you probably did your research and figured that out yourself, and it's why you applied to us. But I'd just like to call that out, that it is really an exciting and innovative type of program. And you'll find if you come to study with us, you'll see that reflected in the research and curriculum that are that's taking place across the two schools. So welcome and congratulations. So you probably know about the program, but I always like to highlight what the curriculum is. What is it that you can expect if you do decide to come join us? And so, as I mentioned before, this is a joint degree, and so the curriculum is split evenly across our two schools. And so you'll be spending half of your time at the Viterbi School of Engineering and the other half of your time at the Annenberg School for Communication. And so on that Viterbi side, you have 4 classes, 3 of those are required. And so, you really start out getting those foundational data science classes, and then you increasingly build up in sophistication and complexity and going on to those more advanced Python coding classes. I know one of the questions that came through when you put your questions in to be answered in this session was, how do I waive out of those classes? So for we have students in this program from a range of different backgrounds. And so if you're someone who came from communication or journalism and don't have those data science classes, this is what your first 3 classes will look like. If you're someone who perhaps came from a computer science background or have taken some more advanced classes, it's something that you can work with our advising team to waive out of. And so, we can talk about that a little bit later in the session, but it's a matter of showing us the classes that you've taken and then having a conversation with a graduate program advisor to determine that you really do have the necessary foundation to then go on to more advanced classes. And so it is a matter of substituting classes. So you still have to take all those Viterbi units, but you might be able to take some different classes depending upon your background.
Dr. Neff?
Yes.
Apologies. Yeah, it looks like your slides are not moving through. Would you mind if I go ahead and share your slides on my end?
Oh, please do. Yeah,
All
because they're moving on my end. So I'll stop sharing. My apologies.
No worries. No, it's okay. Let me get you started real quick here.
Whoops. Okay. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. I know some of our students would love to see some of those courses you were just mentioning. So let me get you back right there.
Great. Okay. Thanks, Bryant. Okay. Yep. So those are those core classes. And I will say, just kind of a word of advice is, if you are new to data science, the curriculum is designed to be accessible to anyone. But I think it's, and our current students can talk a little bit more about this, but, it helps to kind of do a little bit of pre-work outside of the classroom, I think, sometimes, just to prepare yourself if you have never taken a class like this in your life. At Annenberg, there's a little bit more flexibility in the curriculum. You have those 2 required classes and 2 electives. There's a kind of an introductory theory class that you'll take in your first fall, along with that data science 549 class. So you'll be in classes with all your other incoming students. And then in your second year, you'll take a class called Data Science for Communication and Social Networks, which is a more kind of advanced communication class that really integrates the 2 curricula. So taking everything that you've learned in your data science classes and kind of bringing that to bear on questions of communication and human behavior. So that's a kind of an interesting and unique class. And then you have 2 electives, and there's a broad range of classes. I'll show you some of the ones that you can choose from. The list that you've seen on our website is not what you're limited to. So, Brian, if you want to go to the next slide. Oh, I guess the electives might be one. We'll show them in a second. I'm not sure where I put those. I thought they were next, but if you look on our website, you'll see a long list of electives. But as the students on this call will probably attest to, I'm pretty flexible about approving classes that are outside of that list. And we always are having new and exciting classes being developed at Annenberg. So for example, there's a new class on the metaverse that's being offered for the first time in the fall because, we recognize that as an exciting and emerging area for communication and new technology. So faculty are developing a class. We have a new class on fashion communication that just launched this year. Those are just 2 examples of kind of new classes, new curricula that's always being offered at our school. So also classes in the School of Journalism and PR are available to you. So if you're looking at our curriculum, know that those electives can be satisfied in a variety of different ways. And there's a lot of exciting classes that you can look at. I noticed that one of the other questions that came up was, can I take classes, outside of Annenberg? Can I look at those electives in other areas? For this particular degree, the answer is no. So you are limited to your elective classes, either within the School of Engineering or the School of Communication. Bryant flipped ahead here to show you some of those different electives that are available to you. So we've got a range of different classes on topics relating to emerging technologies, persuasion, marketing communication, market research, innovation and new technology, and then, influencers, metaverse, a lot of different types of topics again. So those are on the Annenberg side. On Viterbi, you also have electives. So for, those of you who really want to have more advanced computing and coding skills, you can go take those more advanced classes. Maybe you're someone who just wants kind of that foundational knowledge, but doesn't see yourself actually coding in your day-to-day work. You might be more interested in a class on user experience and design and strategy. Or you might decide to take the professional practicum and work on an applied research project. So there's a little bit of something for everyone. And as I've noted here, you can talk to me if you have questions about those electives. So if we can flip back a couple of slides, I'll show you what you expect as a general, one more, I think, kind of course plan. That one, yep, program at a glance. Okay, so this is just a sample course plan of what you would expect. So if you were to come join us in the fall, we sure hope you do, you'd be taking COM 502, and unless you were waiving out of any of your data science requirements, you'd be taking DSCI 549. So you'd be taking those classes with all the other incoming students in your first fall. Generally, we would recommend that you'd be taking that next spring, one of your communication electives, and then the DSCI 510. In your second year, you'd be taking that data science for communication and social networks, COM 557, and then data science 550. And then in your spring, you would be left to have your 2 electives. Now, a question that often comes up as students are trying to make a decision about a program is, how fast can I get through? How many classes can I take at a time? So we generally really recommend that you stick to this schedule. Sometimes students wait and finish maybe a semester early and take an extra class across a couple of terms, but we always encourage you to make the most of your time at USC, because as you'll hear a little bit later on, there is so much going on all the time. And it's really nice to make the most of your graduate experience, kind of make those connections, build your network, do those internships, and prepare yourselves for the really exciting jobs that all of you are hoping to move on to after graduation. All right, next slide, please, Bryant. All right, so that first, what you can expect in those first 2 classes, I'll just talk about that briefly. So in COM 502, the goal of this class is to introduce you to many different theories that come from kind of communication and the social sciences more broadly, but really with an eye to application. So how can we take academic theory and research and use that to inform our understanding of user behaviors and complex types of business scenarios? And so we bring you through a range of different theories that dealing with individuals, groups, and then kind of broader collectives or networks, and in the hopes of giving you a lot of different theoretical tools in your toolbox. And then in that class, you're asked to actually create, develop some idea, and actually create a prototype of that idea that you then share with the class. So that is one of the first classes that you take in the program. Everyone takes that one. All right, and next slide, please, Bryant. Great. So I think another apprehension that students often have when they're making a decision about this program is, can I do those complicated engineering classes? Maybe I haven't ever, looked at a line of code in my entire life. How can I be successful in this program? And this DSCI 549 is a class that's designed to provide you with that scaffolding that you need for those data science classes. And so it's a course for students who don't have any programming background, who want to have that foundational literacy in data and computing to be able to then go on to work in data science projects. And so it gives you kind of a conceptual piece and a practical piece, and provides you with that scaffolding that you need when you go on to take those more advanced coding classes. Great, thanks, Bryant. And next slide. All right, so a little bit about advising. So I think, you have awesome advisors with this program, and you're going to hear from one of your advisors who's on the call this evening, Steve. But you have, in this joint degree program, the awesome thing is that you have the resources of both schools. So you have advisors on the Annenberg side, and you have advisors on the Viterbi side. You also have career resources on the Annenberg side and on the Viterbi side. You have events taking place at both schools. So there's really a lot of richness that comes from having the academic experience of 2 distinct academic communities at USC. And so, we have two phenomenal advisors at Annenberg, Susan and Adrian, who support our students in a variety of different ways. And we also, on the Viterbi side, have another phenomenal advisor, Steve. And so Steve is the one who's supporting our students at with their Viterbi course selection and those sorts of matters. And he's on our call this evening, so you'll hear from him shortly. All right, thanks, Brian. So what I'd like to spend some time talking about is all the opportunities to get involved, and our students on the call can talk a little bit more about this, but there are lots of different ways to get involved at USC. And so I've highlighted some of the organizations that I think are particularly relevant to our students, but as I've noted at the bottom, USC has over 1,000 student organizations. And so there's something for everyone. So there are organizations that are related to our curriculum and what you're studying. There's also a lot of different fun groups. One of our incoming students joined the chorus, and she was in a singing group and really found that as a great way to make, connections and make new friends and have a hobby outside of the classroom. So there's just a lot of different things happening at any given point in time. GRIDS, Graduates Rising in Data Science, is a student organization that is run out of Viterbi, and it incorporates all the data science students. And GRIDS is always putting on interesting events, sponsoring different sorts of projects, speakers, and things of that nature for our students. The Center for Knowledge-Powered Data Science is a relatively new, the past few years, initiative that was launched by our program co-director, Yolanda Gill, who actually oversees all of the interdisciplinary data science programs at USC. And so she launched this research institute in an effort to really foster and develop interdisciplinary collaboration across the university. And so every semester, C-Kids hosts what they call Data Fest, and they have different research projects that faculty advertise, and then students can put in applications to work on those research projects. So that's one way that many of our students have gotten involved. Some of our students have worked with faculty at the Information Sciences Institute. We have something called the Annenberg Innovation Lab that has a lot of interesting projects going on. Media as Social Technical Systems is another research group that we have at Annenberg that's always doing interesting projects and bringing in interesting guest speakers. So these are just a few of the different organizations that are available to our students. Also at Annenberg, you have access to a state-of-the-art media lab that has all sorts of new technology. So I just actually heard that we placed a new technology order, and we are having all new sorts of kind of VR and AR type of technology for students to use and experiment with and play with. And so there's just kind of a lot of fun tools and toys for you to play with over at Annenberg in our media center. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, pull up some pictures online. It's pretty cool. All right, next slide, please, Brian. Okay, I guess that's all that I have in terms of my slides, but I'll talk a little bit more about career trajectory, job placement. So I know one of the questions was, where do students end up and what are they doing at the end of this program? And so in terms of our graduating class for this year, that's still a question mark. So I'm waiting to hear from our students in terms of where their job placements are. I always send out a survey at the end of the year to hear where people are going. But we've had students end up at a range of different types of companies in a variety of different types of roles. So I think a lot of what this degree is what you make of it, right? So depending upon what your desired career path is, you can customize the curriculum to a certain extent to really better prepare you for that and gain an internship that will better prepare you for that. We've had students end up at, tech companies like Facebook and Apple. We've had students end up at consulting firms like McKinsey and Deloitte. We've had students working in, small, lean startups that you probably haven't heard the name of, but be the next unicorn, who knows? We also have students who've gone on to work in the nonprofit sector. So for instance, one of my alumni, she's now working in an organization that designs technology for inclusivity, access, and disability. So there's just a wide different range of applications of this degree. In terms of, what kind of job titles students have, I think a lot of our students are finding that analyst positions are a really good fit. Product management, and kind of general digital strategy types of roles. But I think there are a lot of different and exciting opportunities. In terms of what the size of the program, I believe that was another question that came up. So how big is this program? So I always like to provide some historical context. So in 2016, when we had our first class, we had 5 students, just 5. And so, it was a very, very tiny program. Last year we had about 50. And so I think that's around the same size of incoming class that we're going to have. So we'll be between anywhere from 50 to 60 students. And that's, we feel like that's a really good size for this program, and we don't want to be too much larger than that. We're also looking forward to returning to having more in-person events. And so, with the course of the past few years, there haven't been as many opportunities to connect on campus, but that's really something that I'm hoping is going to be a lot different next year. So actually in 2 weeks, we're having our first in-person luncheon for the program that we've had in almost 2 years. We used to have those every semester. And so I hope that moving forward, we're going to have a lot of opportunities for in-person connection with students and faculty, which I think is where a lot of the, richness comes from being at a university like USC. All right, and so I've been talking at you for probably about 20 minutes now or close to it. And so I want to pause and give you all an opportunity to ask questions that you may have of me that I might not have covered in my presentation. And so feel free to put those questions in the chat or raise your hand. Either option works.
Awesome. Yes, again, if you plan to ask your question here live, I do ask that please make sure your full name is actually on your Zoom account so we can go ahead and address you directly. Dr. Neff, actually, I had one quick question because I know this is the one I've gotten before. For you mentioned a little bit about earlier in regards to those students who want to get into or don't have feel confident in the in the data science aspect of like coding and technology in that way. How does communication help kind of address that competency, and how do you engage students who are weary about that technology or that STEM focused piece?
So how do we build confidence in students who, I think the curriculum, and this is probably a question that we can also kind of have bleed over into our student panel, because I think our students can probably reflect on that as well, as kind of what's the experience been in that class and how did you feel, going into those data science classes. So, I mean, it's our hope that the curriculum is structured in such a way that we're kind of, it's a gentle yet fast ramp up right into those more advanced classes. So yeah, and I do see one question that kind of relates to this about workloads. So, and this might be a good one for our students to talk about, because I think, I can make my estimates of how much time I think you all are spending on your assignments, but probably our students could best tell you how much time they're spending outside of class, actually on readings, assignments and things. And hopefully they'll be candid with you, even though I'm in the room. I want you guys to speak freely.
Yeah, and I'll definitely take that question on for our student panelists. Well, actually, a good specific question about the workload. What are some of the assignments engaging in? Well, can you give us an example of like a particular assignment or a project that was provided in the class from yours?
Sure. So, I mean, it'll obviously be very different across the two schools, right? So at Annenberg, you're going to be doing lots of writing. So all of your Annenberg classes will be writing intensive and will have some sort, your deliverable will almost always be a paper or project of some sort. So we don't give tests at Annenberg at the graduate levels. So you will not have any multiple choice exams or anything like that. And so, for example, in Com 502, which is a class that I often teach, the final project is actually developing a proposal for something that you are going to create. And that is kind of very loosely defined to give students a lot of autonomy. So a lot of students decided to build some sort of app or platform. And so the final paper was kind of proposing what it is that you're going to do, grounding the design decisions that you've made in theory, and then actually developing a prototype of some sort to share, right? That actually shows what this idea would look like in kind of a rudimentary form, and then giving a presentation. And so a lot of your Annenberg classes will be some sort of project like that, or for example, in our market research class, the audience analysis class, you partner with a client organization and actually work on a market research project. So you are working as a consultant. There are a lot of classes that have those sorts of opportunities, which I think are great because you come out with that kind of real world experience of working with a client. And I'm seeing some questions come up in the chat. So there's not an intern. So the question is an internship included in the program, and do I need to complete an internship in order to graduate? So there's not a requirement of an internship. And so as a result, we do not guarantee placing you with one. That being said, it's highly recommended. I recommend that you take an internship in between your first and second year. You can learn a lot that way, and it makes you more competitive when you go on the job market. And our students can probably speak a little bit about their experience searching for internships. It is competitive, that's for sure. We do offer, resources to help support you in that process, meeting with one of our career advisors, helping fine tune your CV, your LinkedIn, job postings are shared and things like that. So there are those sorts of support, but it ultimately falls on you to find that internship. All right. And so Queenie is asking, how many credits can I take in a semester maximum? I know the program encourages us to take time exploring around connections, but if necessary, are we allowed to expedite our study to 1.5 years? So that's a great question. So in your first semester, you are limited to 2. So no matter who you are, you can take those two classes in your first term. The reason for this is that we want to make sure that your academic foundation is solid, because 2 classes is a full-time load at the graduate level. And if you do have strong performance in that first term, then you can take up to 3 classes a term. And so, there are classes offered over summer. There are more limited course offerings, but they are available. And so, yes, it would be possible to graduate in less than those 4 semesters if you did that. All right. Any other questions? Okay. When can you register for class? Yeah, so if you do just certify, if you decided to enroll, right, you will start receiving communication over the summer, right, from your advising team, and they will be, getting you set up with those classes. You will get into the classes you need in your first semester. That's part of, the advising team's roles to make sure you get registered and set up. So I don't know the exact timing of when that registration goes out for incoming students, but our advising team can probably answer that specific question. And as I have a few more minutes in my session, so I want to talk briefly just about LA as a city and as a kind of a cultural experience. So in addition to, coming to USC, you're coming to LA, which is just a really rich, culturally diverse, exciting city to be in. There's something for everyone. And I like to think of LA as kind of a collection of little cities in one big city. And so you can drive from, where I live in Santa Monica, across town to Pasadena, and it feels like you're somewhere very different, right? Kind of in terms of the things that you do and the people that you encounter. And so and there's so much here. There's a lot of arts and culture, there's outdoors activities, there's something for everyone. And so in addition to USC being the great university that it is, LA itself offers a lot of opportunities, and it's obviously a global hub for media and technology increasingly. And so it's really a nice place to be positioned as a student, at the intersection of communication and data science, because there's just a lot happening here right now. All right, we've got another question about how would you recommend to best take advantage of USC's professional network? Are there signature social events? So we have, so kind of how do you connect? How do you, that's a great question. So there are lots of different events that take place on campus, organized by a variety of different organizations. And so you'll find those sorts of kind of networking events both at Annenberg and at Viterbi. There is an official alumni association for USC that you can join upon graduating, and it continues to host alumni events and opportunities to connect. And so that's kind of a general answer, but I would say there are a lot of different opportunities for networking and connection. And so there's no shortage of those. And so we can talk more about specifics when you come, but basically there's always something happening in terms of networking with other people at USC. So often the problem is choosing what to do as opposed to wondering if there are enough events. So how many credits? Oh, and Steve has just shared, a great resource on all the different organizations and events. And even just look at like Annenberg's events page, right? You'll see all kinds of, like on Monday, we're having a research seminar with Kate Crawford, who is one of our kind of visiting researchers at USC. And she's kind of a global leader in kind of AI and the communication side of AI and emerging technologies and ethics around those sorts of technologies. And she's giving a lecture on Monday. It's not a networking event, but just a kind of a high profile speaker event. Credits, so you need 32 credits to graduate. So yeah, usually it's 8 units per semester, but 32 credits for the degree.
Hey.
All right.
All right. I know there's some pieces there that we would definitely love to go ahead and trickle in for our students. But I want to thank again Dr. Neff for presenting this overview of our presentation and the program itself. In this case, I want to go ahead and invite our 3 current students up and allow them to kind of introduce themselves to the crowd. So I asked for our 3 panelists, whoever wants to start, your name, your hometown, and why did you choose USC?
Hi, I'm Audrey. I'm finishing up my first year in the program, and my hometown is LA. I lived here for 10 years, and then I actually moved to Beijing, lived there for 8 years and went to an international school. Then I came back to the States for undergrad and for grad school. My background is in computer science and linguistics. But my work experience has been in digital media. So when I found this program that was at the intersection of communications and like computer science and data science, I just thought that this was like the perfect opportunity for me to combine my 2 experiences because I had been pursuing them so separately before.
Hi everyone. I'm Yurui, and I'm now a first-year student from the Communication Data Science program. My hometown is Beijing, and as for my background, I graduated from Miami University in China, majoring in journalism. So the reason why I choose USC is because I think Communication Data Science program is really an interdisciplinary program and can broaden my horizon and also broaden my career path. So I choose this program.
Hello, everyone. My name is Andrew, and I come from Beijing too. and my undergrad major is also journalism. And the reason why I chose USC is that I think this program is one of its kind, and it's a very unique program that combines communication and data science. And I also I love California and I love Los Angeles, so I chose USC. Yeah.
Great, thank you all. Right off the bat, with that first question that was asked to Professor Neff here, what would be the class workload for your first semester? Can you describe your first semester in the program?
So for my first semester, I took 502, Com 502 and DSCI 549. And even though I have a computer science background, I still decided that I wanted to take some of the intro classes for data science because after undergrad, I had been doing photography for 2 years. So I was kind of nervous about getting back into the academic grind. And also, even though I did computer science, it is very different from data science. So I am learning like sort of almost completely new things in this program, even though I do have a background in computer science. That said, I did find that my first semester, the workload was not that heavy and is probably the lightest that it will be for like all 4 semesters. And that gave me time to like get acclimated to the academic environment and also, explore LA and like get to know other people in the program. So not that much time, for the first semester.
Actually, SM. Now, I also took the Com 502 and the DSCI 559 as well. But as for non-native speaker, I spend most of my time on reading the Com 502, the readings of 502. So I feel like because it requires a lot of reading, so I feel like the workload for me is a little bit heavy. But I think it depends on your English level and depends on your speed to read academic English paper. And for this semester, I took DSCI 510. And I think, for this semester, I chose 3 courses, and I think it's really heavy for me. So I suggest for the prospective students to just like select 2 courses in the first semester and to just enjoy the life in LA.
Yeah. So my situation is quite special because I only took 1 course in my first semester because of the pandemic. So I attended a part-time in my first semester back in China, but I can tell you my experience in my second semester, which I did a full-time here in LA. And I got waived for the DSCI of 549. So my second semester, my first semester, I took the DSCI 510, but my second semester I take Com 502 and the DSCI 550. And I think the workload between Annenberg courses and the Viterbi courses is quite different. So for Viterbi courses, it really depends on your code literacy. So if you're really proficient in coding, then it might be easy for you to take some Viterbi courses. And for Annenberg courses, it really requires you to a lot of readings and writings. So it depends on depends on the level of your academic writing and academic reading. Yeah.
Great, thank you all. So everyone's been keeping you busy. That's good. Managing time and staying connected, kind of similar to what was asked earlier about making effort to connecting with potential events and organizations. So how can students get involved in or connected to the industry during their program? How have you been involved with some of those opportunities on campus?
I forgot to mention that in my first semester, I also participated in DataFest, which Dr. Neff mentioned. that was a really amazing opportunity to work with researchers and staff at USC and ISI. I was kind of like nervous for applying, but I decided to go for it because I was like, this is going to be the semester with the lightest workload. If there's a time to take on an extra project, it's now. So I applied and I had that opportunity to work with Dr. Gill actually on a research project. And that during that time, it was like a really great learning experience. And like, I was worried it would just be like just doing tasks that they told you to do, but they really foster like a learning environment and encourage you to ask questions and think about data holistically. That's what I really like about this program. It really encourages you to think about not just the code, but also the design process and your intention behind that. Also ethics. And that is like something that or that wasn't really emphasized that much when I was just studying computer science in undergrad. And another way to get involved is grids. They invite so many amazing speakers and they're always sending out emails. I'm not officially in grids, but I still get out their emails. I think all CS and data science students do get those emails. And they've all been remote so far. So and I'm a commuter student, so it's very convenient for me.
Actually, for the previous semester, I also participated in the data fest, but I want to mention another resource that Annenberg can provide us. So for this semester, I take the CMGP 555. So our lecture, so the professor is actually a joint professor, so he has his own job as a vice president from the Burger King. So actually each week he will like invite several guest speakers to our classes. And actually in the class, we can talk more about the marketing industry. And also he encouraged us to like make connections with this professor, with these guest speakers, and find like potential internships in their companies. So I really feel the connection resources that Annenberg provide is really valuable.
Yeah, so I want to mention that the career fair is also the opportunity for students to get involved. There are a lot of career fairs across the whole year. So there are like the Viterbi's career fair, Annenberg's career fair, USC careers fair. And for Viterbi careers fair that I want to mention because I attended this the Viterbi career fair, and because it's more matched with my career goal. So so a lot of US alumni will come to the career fair to introduce their current companies, and this is a great opportunity for you to talk with them and to connect with them, network with them, because some of the events in the career fair is very small, just like a few students and with the employer. So this is a really great chance for you to connect with them. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. You all still keep busy from academics all the way to the external. That's phenomenal. I gotta ask you, me as being a native Angelino, is what you call someone from Los Angeles, I would ask my panelists to share, what does it feel like, or what does it mean to live in LA? And how was your transition? As a commuter student, what does it mean to really come in and out of the campus? But for the rest of you, what can you share about your experience transitioning and living here?
Yeah, for me, I think LA is a very diversified city. So like I come from China and I live here in LA. I feel a very little difference of the experience between living in LA and living in China, because there are also very amazing Chinese restaurant, amazing Chinese supermarkets you can go to. So yeah, it's a very diversified cities, and I mean, there are a lot of fun activities happen every day in LA, and yeah, there's sightseeing things here in LA. The beach, the sunset is phenomenal.
Yeah, actually, I have the same feeling because LA is a really diverse community. So actually, sometimes, actually, I won't feel homesick about my hometown sometimes, but because I can still like communicate with some of my Chinese friends, but also some friends from other countries, which is really interesting to communicate with them, with people from different culture. But one thing I feel like is a little bit uncomfortable for me is that the public transportation in LA is not as well as I was in China. So I feel like if you have a car or if you're planning to buy a car, it will make your life in LA more beautiful, or you can enjoy your life in LA.
Even though I was born here and I lived here for 10 years, it was like for the first 10 years of my life. So I really only went to like Disneyland all the time and 7-Eleven or something. So coming back after living in Beijing for 8 years and living on the East Coast for my undergrad experience, I actually kind of feel like I'm a tourist here too, and I'm still going to the museums and enjoying them, going to the beach, and it almost feels kind of surreal because there's no, like the weather is so perfect here. It feels like no time is passing, which is so different from the East Coast in the States. Like last weekend, I went to the Academy Museum, and right now they have the Studio Ghibli exhibit with Hayao Miyazaki, and I love that.
Great. Well, thank you all for sharing that. I'm going to leave it up to our admitted students to ask any questions they may have. If you're available to go ahead and submit your question here on the chat or ask your question live. One question just came in for my panelists, any of you. How would you recommend us to make more friends and students across the USC community?
I've made a lot of friends through my classes. It's easy. You have something in common. You can ask them for like homework help or something. And then there's also a lot of collaborative projects where you get to work with your classmates and discuss with them. And there are also some students who like went to USC for undergrad. And so if you like find one of those people, they like know everything that's going on at USC. So that's how I've been figuring out what's going on.
Yeah, I think from the class we can know a lot of friends, but as we have mentioned before, there are also several like various the student events and student organizations. So I think, and also I made a lot of friends from our apartment. Like we can have some outdoor activities, and still we can have some games during the night. So I think there are several ways for you to like making more friends across the US community.
Yeah, I would recommend that join a student group or student organizations, like some sports organizations or culture organizations, so that you could participate those their activities and make friends in that organizations. And also you could join some like school-based event, like student event. Like Viterbi also hosts the football parties in the fall. So you could join those parties to meet and greet with football fans of USC.
Yeah, those football parties are pretty fun. Still have some time to answer some of your questions here. I'm going to ask the next question for you all, as this is a pretty short program in a sense of time for those 2 years. What are your plans after completing your degree?
So my previous experience has been like technical academically, but in marketing for like my work experience. And I've been looking for a way to sort of combine that. And so right now I have a data science internship, and I'm working with a California community college to help develop a tool for their new data science program. But after, I think, like, I'm still figuring it out, but I'm definitely interested in project management roles. And actually, after your first semester at USC, you would be like pretty well prepared for those kind of roles already, because you learn about the data lifecycle and how to talk about data and what things you have to think about when you're designing a project. And those are all important like soft skills that you will need for like a role like that.
Yeah, actually for me, I haven't decided yet, because actually before that I plan to like come back to China and find a job at the like tech companies. But actually now I feel like for the knowledge I learned here, the communication and the data science and interdisciplinary area, I feel like it has more for me to learn. So actually I'm now considering to pursue for the PhD degree, but I haven't decided yet, and I haven't do much research about that, but I will like start to doing that after the final.
So my plan is to start my career here in America. So I hope that I could get a return offer for my summer internship this summer. So yeah, so my ideal role is just the data analytics role for companies like the tech companies, or some customer related companies or industries. Yeah.
Great. Let's see, we got a new question here. Can you give us some advice on how to find an internship during the summer?
Yeah, so my advice is that you start your job search as early as possible. Be patient, be prepared that it's going to be a marathon for most of the students. And then my second advice is that try to use LinkedIn to connect with some US alumni or this programs alumni, and and also to prepare your resumes as early as possible also.
Yeah, actually, I just want to say I haven't say something for this question, because I'm trying to find some research opportunities from several professors. So I haven't decided to like find an internship.
I've also been getting a lot of emails from both Annenberg and Viterbi about job opportunities. So that's some like inside connection that you can look forward to.
Great, thank you all for sharing that. If we have, Steve just also added some information as well. We're going to definitely touch base on some of that great resources, both from Viterbi and Annenberg. So thank you, Audrey, actually, foreshadowing what to expect later on in our presentation. So let me ask you three our final question, actually. What advice would you give our freshly admitted students as they start looking at their plans and getting ready for this upcoming fall?
Actually, for my advice, I just want to like encourage you to from start now to self-learn as more as possible, because as you know, 2 years is really like limited time as comparing with the undergraduate study. So actually, if you want to find a job or pursue the PhD degree, you need to start like at the ending of the first year. So actually, the preparation time is really limited. So actually, if you can start it preparing now, it can help you to like be more competitive and maybe stand out from the job market or other PhD like candidates like that.
Something that I struggled with when I was doing computer science in undergrad is that I felt like I had no idea what was going on a lot of the time. Like coming here, I realized that, a lot of people feel a similar way, and we all feel imposter syndrome at times. And people will say something like, oh, but you have a computer science background, so this is probably like really easy for you. But I'm actually learning all of these things for the first time too. But I think something from my background, my technical background, that does really help is being able to search for resources. So knowing how to like look through Stack Exchange and understand what people are saying as like how to debug your code, and also just being able to look for documentation. I think those are like the biggest things that my computer science background has helped me. So if you can, as Minwei said, start like developing some of your skills, and just like learning how to like work through problems like procedurally, that would be really helpful, even if you don't have the technical skills yet. But don't worry, you'll learn that when you get here.
So in addition to their academic advice, I think I'm going to give some like entertainment or extracurricular advice that you try participate like every every fun activities here in LA. So you enjoy. So this is maybe for most of students, this is might be the only 2 years that you are going to live here in LA for some of the students. So you don't want to you don't want to be like you just study here. So go outside, enjoy your life here in LA. That's my advice.
Right on. An important question before I close out real quick, just because, yes, the move here is very interesting and very fun. We had a couple people ask, any good recommendations of places to live?
Well,
So
I think you can go ahead. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so I think it depends on whether you have a car or not. So if you can have a car, you can live in downtown or Koreatown. There has really, really good apartments there. But if you don't have a car, so you have better live in the DPS area, which is more which is safer and is more convenient for you to like commute every day. So I live in Lorenzo, and I feel like it's a good student apartment, but it's a little bit expensive. And if you want to like find more like cheaper and more valuable housing, you can like start like searching on the website, but it costs more time. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's so it really depends on whether you have a car or whether what's your budget for housing. So if you have a sufficient or enough budget, you can live in some very luxury apartments in downtown. And if you don't have that much budget, you can also like live in some individual house near campus, and yeah, and it's also I would recommend that for the first year, the house or apartment near the campus is the better choice for the international students, and because it's safer and it's more convenient to go to the campus, Yeah.
Great. Well, I want to go ahead and thank our panelists one more time for their time, of course, as busy as they are, but as well as sharing their insight with everyone here today. So thank you so much for participating in our session. I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to our amazing USC Viterbi advisement team here to speak with you regarding resources, deadlines are you should be all aware of, and also course planning. So I'll hand this off over to Steve Pham and Sabrina Rodriguez.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here and congratulations for being here. First, I want to just take some time to thank my colleagues for a great program so far. As Bryant mentioned, we're going to go over some specific things as it relates to the Viterbi side of your program. So we'll go over course planning. We'll go over a little bit more briefly about the program structure, the curriculum, as well as what you can all expect from us in terms of academic advisement. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and share my screen, and then if you all could just give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen, that'd be great. Thank you. Okay, great. So like I mentioned already, thank you for being here, and I really want to welcome you all to from being here. So on this screen, you'll be able to see our computer science lab, or it's called Salvatore Lab, but a lot of students who are going to be eligible to meet with advisors one-on-one will be meeting advisors here when we're able to meet students in person. At the current moment, we are meeting students virtually only, but by the fall semester, we hope that we'll be able to accommodate some students in our labs, so we could get that really one-on-one student-facing advisement. With that being said, on the next slide, Dr. Neff did a great job of explaining the data science leadership as well as the course curriculum for the program already, but I do want to reiterate some things in specific. So Dr. Yolanda Gale, she is the director of our data science programs here in Viterbi, and she does manage all the interdisciplinary programs. So a lot of the work that she does is specifically related to the curriculum. So she'll be able to let students as well as staff know about different petitions that students would be eligible for. Let's say, for example, I think Dr. Neff mentioned earlier that there are going to be some students that are eligible to waive introductory courses. And with that, a lot of students take this opportunity to look at different electives outside of the data science or computer science department that they would like to take to further their education based on their career trajectory or career interests. So Dr. Yolanda Gill is one of the main people that we have in our department that can overlook these, or that can oversee these petitions to see what would be approved and what wouldn't be approved. And in terms of the curriculum, like I mentioned, since Dr. Neff did a great job of going over it before, I won't go into too much detail, but the main thing I wanted to just look at was the core foundation courses that we do have in our program. So COM 502 and COM Management 515 are the two Annenberg courses that are required for all communication data science students. And on the Viterbi side of things, we do have DSci 510, 549, and 550. These are typically the classes that students will want to waive out of, or based on their educational background. So as Dr. Neff mentioned, we do have a lot of students from a variety of different backgrounds. Some students have a computer science background in their undergrad. Some students majored in journalism. Some students did criminology and everything in between, right? So depending on your background and depending on what you've completed and what you've done before coming to Viterbi or USC, we can use all of that information to see if there's any classes that you would be able to waive out of. This process does happen right before students register for classes, and Sabrina will go over this a little bit later. For this upcoming fall semester, students will be receiving an email from our department, typically either from the data science or computer science department regarding fall registration. And during this email, you'll also be able to see a form that we send out every single semester about whether you could waive out of courses or not. When you fill out this form, and if you do want to waive out your courses, typically you'll provide things such as a transcript about relating to some of the courses that you took in undergrad. For example, if you took computer science courses or you took data science courses, we could use that information to waive out the courses for you. Another thing that students aren't aware of is that you could actually use certificates as well. So a lot of students I know take online certificates via Udemy, Code Academy, and a lot of other online courses that they can actually use to waive out some of our introductory courses as well. So in the past, we've had a lot of students take, some certificates online based on data mining, data management, and a plethora of other things. For students that have this experience or have these certificates, and you do want to waive out these introductory courses, we do definitely recommend it. But other than that, for most students or students that don't have that background, we really do think 510, 549, and 550 is a great way of allowing students that don't have that background to really be able to understand the material, really understand coding, the technical side of data science, and be able to complete the program successfully. As Dr. Neff mentioned, it is a pretty quick ramp up, but it is a very gentle ramp up as well. So based on my own experience, a lot of the students that don't have a strong background in coding or computer science or data science do still do very well in our programs. Typically, you do have to spend a little bit more time just because the material is new. But as one of the students mentioned earlier, the time over the summer before you actually start your classes is a great time to do some pre-work just to get a basic understanding of some things that you might see when you're in the program. So if you do have a free summer and you do planning on coming to USC, I do recommend students to just maybe take a couple of hours throughout the week just to take a look at Python or look at different things related to data science, so you get so you could be a little bit ahead of the curve when you do come to USC. And then one thing I wanted to mention as well as on the bottom, you'll see this link here. I'll share this link later in the Zoom chat, but the electives that you see on this list is not an exhaustive list. There are other courses that students can also take as electives as well. So I'll make sure to share that later. And one last thing is for students that do have a stronger background in computer science or data science, you do actually have the option to take one computer science course as part of your degree to replace the data science elective. There are a lot of cases of students, like I mentioned before, having a strong background in computer science. So if this is you and you do want to take another class that isn't listed here or listed on that page, you're definitely welcome to do so. And then with that, I'll go ahead and hand it off to Sabrina to go over some aspects of the registration and academic advisement for our team.
Thank you, Steve. So on to the next slide. So for when we register for courses, we always follow a D clearance system, and D clearance just stands for departmental clearance. So like Steve mentioned, you all would be getting an email during the summer that kind of explains the process a little bit more in depth, but basically you would be requesting D clearance in a normal semester. So kind of like how Dr. Neff touched on it in the beginning, you kind of always take the same 2 courses in your first semester. Those ones are generally assigned. So you don't have to go through this process, but in a normal semester, you would have to request D clearance. As Viterbi students, you would all be getting access to a program called My Viterbi. It's kind of a hub where we have a lot of different tools for you to connect with your academic advisors and to request D clearance for several things. So you would just click on the D clearance and prerequisite waiver request manager, and it would walk you through the process. Some tips about registration: we highly recommend being flexible, especially with those electives. Elective offerings are definitely dependent on faculty who can teach the courses. It's also dependent on how many students might be taking the courses. So we always recommend having a couple of electives in mind. Kind of like how we mentioned throughout this entire presentation, even if you come from a non-engineering background, we do recommend that you take the introduction courses, and this is kind of your way to build those blocks. We use the schedule of classes, so that link that's there, and we can put it in the chat later on, shows the schedule of classes, and it's updated for every semester. So we always recommend that you use this as well as web registration on MyUSC to kind of build your schedule and prepare for registration. Again, our graduate students don't register until we provide them with D clearance. This is just more of a way to start your planning for the next semester. When it comes to course waivers, a big rule that we have is that once you waive the course and move on to more advanced courses, you can no longer go back and take the lower level course. if you do this, it's considered out of sequence and we won't be able to apply it to your degree. So we do recommend that you think very carefully about which courses, if applicable, that you hope to waive before you start. When it comes to enrolling into data science courses specifically, we don't allow more than 8 units or 2 courses per semester for each student. This has to do with a lot of different reasons, but 8 units is considered full-time, as we mentioned earlier. So again, in each semester, you won't be able to enroll in more than 8 units of data science courses per semester. This actually also includes computer science. So if you take your one approved computer science course and a data science course, those are going to be your total 8 units for that semester. One big thing that we want to emphasize is that we highly encourage communication between advisors and professors, especially if it comes to a point where you're considering doing anything like adding a course, dropping a course, or if you're concerned about any deadlines. And this has to do with, getting an idea of where you actually are in the course versus how you're feeling about the course. And there might be options where you could work with your professor to get that grade to where you want it to be. And then the advisor kind of comes in where, we can help you with the deadlines and making sure that if you are concerned about a course, what kind of timeline you would be looking at. And then we are going to go over some important deadlines. So the schedule of classes is a huge tool that we can use, and then you can use the registration calendar. We put some important fall dates here as an example, and these are currently for the following fall semester. But these are some important dates that we always want students to take a look at, especially when they're registering for courses. A big one is going to be obviously the first day of classes. You want to know when you want to show up. Another one is going to be the add drop deadline. Generally is going to happen, about 3 weeks after the semester starts. There's also different deadlines for dropping. So there's an add drop deadline where you do not receive a W on your transcript. And then there's an add drop deadline where you will receive a W on your transcript. So these are just important deadlines that we always highlight every semester, and you'll always be able to find it on the schedule of classes. And I'll go ahead and let Steve talk a little bit about the actual academic advisement portion.
Thank you, Sabrina. So as Dr. Neff mentioned before, I will be serving as the interim academic advisor for communication data science students up until, I believe, the fall semester. Our department is going through a little bit of a reorganization right now. So we do hope by the fall semester, every advisor in our department will be able to see any communication data science student. But for now, if you do have any questions or concerns, you can feel free to email me directly at my email that's listed on the page right now. And then in the future, we do have the dSciMasters@vsoe.usc.edu email, where any student could ask any question, and one of the advisors will try our best to get a response to you within 2 or 3 days. And that's a great segue into what you can expect from us as academic advisors. So we try our best to respond to students within 2 to 3 business days during business hours. So what this means is that Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., we will try our best to respond to students when emails or inquiries or questions come in. And then during peak times though, which typically happens during add drop, when students are registering for courses, when students are meeting for course planning and things like that, we do ask students to expect a little bit longer of a response time, just because our computer science and data science student population is so large. And then from there, like I mentioned before, we do allow students to meet for one-on-one advisement. And this can be done and completed on MyViterbi. So like Sabrina mentioned earlier, you all will have access to that once you certify to USC and submit your information about to get a MyViterbi account. So after the 3rd week of classes, typically after add drop, we do allow students to book appointments with us. Like I mentioned before, hopefully in the fall semester, we can meet with some of you all in person. But until then, we do provide Zoom meetings for students to have questions regarding course planning, sequencing, waiving courses, and things like that. And then with that being said, we also expect things in specific from our students too, especially as it relates to academic advisement. So we do send emails pretty regularly from our department. And like I mentioned, during the summer, you should be getting a lot more emails from us. We do ask students to check your email every single day. A lot of the times you necessarily have to respond, but we do provide very important reminders, information about deadlines and other things related to that pretty often. So we do ask students to check their email as many times as possible throughout the week. On the opposite end, when you do send advisor emails or when you send emails to our department, we do really ask students to provide both the USC ID and their full name in all the emails. It just makes it easier for us to track down and locate your student profile so we could see the courses that you've taken already, the courses that you need to complete, and just gives us an overview of how we could best support you. And then once again, we do really recommend students to use strictly the USC email only. So if you're still using a Gmail or Yahoo or Hotmail or whatever students are using these days, we do ask once you get your USC email, please use that strictly for any contact that you have with our department. And then similarly, while we do expect, or we ask students to expect a 2 to 3 business day response from us, we also it requests students to respond within 2 to 3 business days as well when we email you. And then one thing that I wanted to add that's not on the slide is also related to some of the questions that we had earlier about career services, career advisement, and finding internships. So as a communication data science student, you really have this great opportunity to use both the USC's Central Career Center as well as Viterbi's Career Center. So USC's Central Career Center is great for any jobs that you want that's not within or not strictly related to engineering, any on-campus jobs, any jobs that are not tech heavy. And you can definitely use the USC Central Career Center to find a lot of information about jobs that might be available to you. A lot of the advisors there are also able to help students with interviews, writing their resumes and cover letters, and then preparing just for internship expos that our department or campus has throughout the year. But with that being said, as communication data science students, you do have access to a very special Viterbi Career Center where a lot of our advisors are specifically there to help students that are in the engineering field. So the reason this is important is because for a lot of the jobs that communication data science or just engineering students request in general, a lot of the jobs you're looking for are a lot different from what a traditional student in maybe business or a traditional student in another degree would receive. So in Viterbi, or I guess in engineering, a lot of the interviews that you'll go through are considered technical interviews. And a lot of the times our Viterbi advisors are really there to walk students through this process because it is very different from a traditional interview. So for students that really want to get into maybe software engineering or data analysis or data science or be a data scientist, you will or you may have to go through technical interviews, which like I mentioned before are very different. But our Viterbi advisors in the Career Center are specifically there to help students through this process and help students learn more about what applying for and going through an engineering interview is going to be like. So like I mentioned, this is a great resource for all students in this program to take advantage of. And I do really want students to take advantage of it just because a lot of the students that I have told to go to that Career Center have been able to get internships and full-time job offers from the resources. So like I mentioned, I do really recommend it. And then with that, I do believe that is the end of our presentation for the Viterbi side of things. We did want to leave a couple minutes left over for students to ask questions if they do have any.
Yeah, again, another reminder. If you have any questions, please utilize that the raise hand function or submit your question here on the chat. All right. Julia actually got to the question that transitions into me. So thank you, Steve and Sabrina, for all the information. Even if there's a portion where I'm sharing some information around Annenberg, if you have any questions at all for us three, please post those in there. I guess we got one real quick. Is LinkedIn Learning Certificate works for waiving class?
Unfortunately not. But that's a great question though. Thank you for asking.
Great. So I'll share with you all some information and some resources for Annenberg. So in Annenberg, you also get to have an additional resource piece. As Steve mentioned, you have the central aspect, you'll have the focus communication and data science aspect, but that ingrained communication piece for us at Annenberg is additional. So what I'll have here on the link to share with everyone is our career development office. So Julia, this is actually an access point for you. You will also be receiving resources, information, as well as opportunities to connect with our career development office. These folks are as well focused on providing you a very broad and very focused piece. What broad and focused means for us is the fact that you're going to have this entire function of communication, of potential public relation opportunities for you to look at. But all of it's on that same focus of where you're learning some of your key academics and providing you that platform to your professional avenue. What they'll also be able to provide you is additional resources and opportunities for professional experiences. Our career development office carries a Lunch with Leaders speaker series that we invite all of our students to actually participate and learn from professionals in all various fields that come and share their insight. Additionally, there's some opportunities for you to find internships that really last between the semesters, be it spring, summer, and the fall, but as well as other excursions that will lead to a much more broader kind of experience for you as a professional. All of that still in addition to having that one-to-one caring aspect of working with you, building on your resume, actually kind of building what the physical resume would look like, and asking yourself the question, where is your next step after completing your program? Another resource that was mentioned as well earlier is our spaces. One amazing one that a lot of our students take advantage of is our media center. So the media center is truly our learning laboratory where students from all types of backgrounds, from different majors and even degree programs, are able to come in and to build stories. The media center is really the hub for a lot of the stories you get to find and write about from within the USC community, across the various neighborhoods around, but as well as stories that are very engaging. So if you're looking for an outlet that is going to be different to what you're already currently doing and managing those opportunities, the Media Center presents itself as a way to expand on your writing, which is going to be very core and heavy on the communication side, and having that ability to practice and have resources. There's other graduate students that actually participate in the Media Center that will provide you some great examples, as well as lead you to some unique opportunities for you to build on that writing skill set that you'll need. All of this is really an opportunity for you to expand on those activities, networks, clubs, all across Annenberg. And all that is based also on the relationships you'll have with your faculty members. So really connecting with them and learning from what their interests are and opportunities of research is going to be key to your overall kind of experience that you'll have in both Viterbi as well as in Annenberg. I like to quote a little bit more on the Annenberg side on the aspect of really building that unique relationship of seeing and being curious of the engineering side of the house. So a lot of great students from the communication data science is really key to evolving those relationships and being curious. And I think that's really what led us to this particular group, curiosity. So it's kind of key as you continue having these types of questions. I'm going to go with Queenie, who dropped a question. What kind of course or / certificate works for substituting classes? Do you have a list, Steve, of certain certificates or like to mention any?
Sure, yeah, I don't have a specific list just because when students apply, they often come with so many different certificates, but I do have some general websites that a lot of students do use. So most of the massive open online courses, so things such as Udemy, Coursera, Udacity, and EDX. These are some of the biggest ones that students take. And in terms of the actual course title that they take, a lot of students will take, a common one is Python for Everyone is a very common one, data analysis, data management. Essentially anything related to data science will help students waive out of some courses. For 510 specifically, which is Data Science 510, which is one of the core courses in our program, that course is strictly related to Python. And for that, any certificate that you get from any of the websites I just mentioned related to Python would allow you to waive out of that Python course. With that being said, though, we did find that some students that did waive out of Python using one of these courses did find it a little bit harder to persist through the program, just because the Python and the technical skills that you learn at USC from these classes are going to be a lot more rigorous than the courses that you might take on these online courses. So just be wary of that. If you do want to waive out of a course, I would recommend taking a look at some of those websites that I mentioned. But then also remember that typically it isn't a one-for-one substitution, in the sense that you might not learn everything that you would have learned if you would have taken the Data Science 510 or any of the other courses that we offer.
All right. Excuse me. Thank you so much, Steve. I appreciate you on that one. As I was going through all the questions in chat and such, I wanted to go back to one particular resource as well for some of our students looking for housing, and especially ones looking much closer to campus, housing.usc.edu. It's the website for our housing. Definitely recommend looking into that. The one thing from our partners there that they've stressed about is that if you are interested and you find an area that you really would like to go ahead and set your application towards, you must do that as soon as possible, because we are very limited in the physical space for living. So definitely recommend doing some research regarding those opportunities there. I am just reviewing some of those pieces as well that I wanted to provide for our students. But if you have any other questions, please, by all means, submit those questions now in the chat. Oh, we got one more that just came through. Oh, Steve, thanks, man. I appreciate you on that one. Let's see here. Oh, and at this point, I knew I had my note here. It was regards to the conversation we have with our panelists, but I definitely want to make sure that I ask all of our colleagues here to make sure to provide any resources and ways to connect with each other. So if you have any questions regarding our admission office, if you have any questions regarding that for us at Annenberg, that'll be our general email address. I am also going to drop the advisement office email address for Annenberg, so everyone has that as well. I cannot stress this one enough. The USC email is key to a lot of the communication here. So I definitely do recommend, as you certify your enrollment, to make sure you get moving quickly to getting that USC email address, as that's going to be the central way of connecting with each of us as you progress through your program. So by all means, send us your questions through that USC email, and we will definitely be able to respond as soon as possible. But I want to go ahead and start our conclusion of our session. I want to thank everyone, Dr. Neff, for providing that academic overview, all of our student panelists for providing their insight and their experience, our partners from Viterbi's Academic Advisement, Director Cami Lee for her insight as well. But we want to thank you all. And we really do hope that you all join us here coming up this fall and get to see you all in person. So that way we're not in a virtual box. But thank you all for your time this evening. Best of luck out there. And again, congratulations and fight on.
Thanks, Brian, for a great program. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it.